morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of InterSwitch, I'd like to welcome you to this very important event where we would like to talk a bit about innovation. Should it be disruptive or should it be evolutionary? And just to get going, I'd like to share some perspectives with you. So first, there's this website I like to go to from time to time. It's called WorldMapper. What WorldMapper does is it gives you different perspectives of events around the globe, basically using the map of the world to show where different countries, different continents are positioned within that globe. The very first one on the screen talks about the way the world looks like when you view it from the point of land area. And as you can see, on the average, based on current population, each one of us should have about 2 hectares of land to our name. Now, I'm sure a lot of us in this room do not have 2 hectares. What that basically means is that a few of us in this room have more than we should ideally have. Okay? And there's a connection between that and innovation. There's a connection between that and disruption, as we'll see in the next few slides. Now, this is another perspective using population, not in 2017, but in 2050. Now, I know we have people from different countries here. What you should try to do is try to locate the country you come from. And for those of you from Nigeria, you can see clearly that the map of Nigeria is distorted in a positive way. It's bigger. So we have the advantage of population. Now, population itself, though an advantage, may also be a disadvantage. And in this particular view, it is looking at the ability for the different countries of the world to create meaningful jobs. And as you can see, Africa becomes a very thin line. If you are from Nigeria, relative to other parts of the world, you will find it difficult to locate the country. So despite the huge population, we may not be able to provide what that population needs to have decent living. Now, if you do not have jobs, what you find most times is that some countries provide some degree of welfare. What this chart is basically saying is that most countries in Africa are not in a position to provide that welfare. And so how have we innovated in that space? We have innovated by making the family the welfare state. And so don't be too surprised for those of us in this room, especially for those of you in Nigeria, where you get phone calls from your cousins and so on from the villages asking you for support at one point or the other. You have become their welfare state. Why? Because the continent or the country you come from is not able to provide that particular service to them, whereas in other parts of the world, it can be done easily. When you look at another perspective of the world from the point of view of households living with over $200 per day, you see a slightly different picture. You see Southern Africa and Northern Africa begin to emerge, okay? If you take a view of countries that the citizens or the households live on above $500 per day, you see a totally different picture. Again, remain focused. There's a connection between these things and what we are going to be discussing today. Cellular subscribers in 2002. Because of time, I did not provide different views. If you look at this same slide, 10 years back, Africa was one thin line. In 2002, you can see a slight improvement. Unfortunately, WorldMapper does not have recent statistics, so I couldn't present that. But if you look at other things we know today about Africa, it is safe to assume that if we were to present cellular subscribers in 2017, you will see a very, very big difference. In this particular case, Africa, Nigeria especially, will be in a very good position by virtue of our population size and the number of people that have access to mobile phones, okay? When you look at internet penetration also, the chart is not too different from this one. What does that tell us? That perhaps in Africa, there is a role that mobile and the internet can play as we begin to think about how to innovate, how to disrupt, or how to evolve, as the case may be. Now, this is something I got from a recent survey that was done by PwC. And the important thing to note there is internet penetration, which basically supports what I talked about earlier. It's about 32%. And for the population of the country, it simply means that for that 32%, we have a population of internet penetration that is bigger than some African countries. That is something we can use. If you go to payment penetration, there's a similar story, okay? So what really do we want to achieve? So what we talked about in InterSwitch, we're thinking about this conference is how do we evolve? How do we innovate, especially in payments and in commerce, okay? Is every innovation value adding or is it value destroying? If you sit in the US or in Europe today and you are thinking about innovation, what are the factors that will shape the way you think about innovation? And if you leave Europe or the US and you come to Africa and you come to Nigeria and you are thinking about innovation, what kind of factors will shape your thinking? What is the right way to innovate in Africa? And could there be a wrong way to innovate? If we know the answer, we will not bring the team of experts in this room today to share their experience with us. We don't know the answer. But something tells us that there's a connection between where you live, the factors you experience, and how you should innovate. And we hope that by the end of tomorrow, those of you who found time to come here will get something that basically adds to your knowledge about the best way to look at innovation in this country and the continent. So, when we begin to look at disruption itself, and we hear that a lot in this market, sometimes people think disruption is price cutting. And in my chat with Brett some days ago, I told him this is an issue we are dealing with. What does disruption really mean? I'm not going to take the wind off his presentation, so I'm going to leave him to come up and tell us what it means. But he gave me an insight. He basically told me that it is the ability to shift the way people see things that basically propels them to do a lot more. So if we look at innovation, or when we think about innovation, one of the things we should be looking at is what are we doing today as a people, and how can we shift the thinking and create the kind of growth that is value-adding, okay? If we can think about that, then perhaps we're on the right way. And what we can say about disruption is that once this happens, those who are able to disrupt tend to rebase the ecosystem, as you can see from the slides on the screen. Innovation is good, but there's a lot of hype. What I hear in InterSwitch these days is blockchain, Bitcoin, and so on and so forth. We're looking at it, we're thinking about it, but blockchain is not new. When you go onto Gartner and you look at their hype curve, you will see that what we call blockchain today has gone through different phases. The question is, when is the right time to jump on board? And as we look at innovation, we have seen a lot of people come up with very innovative stuff that never caught on. Question is, do we have the resources to waste on things that may not catch on? How can we sharpen our lens to know the right time to jump onto technology? How can we sharpen our lens to know the right time to innovate? So we started thinking about this, and we said, how do we try to solve this problem? Some years ago, I was invited to a workshop by the IFC in Washington, D.C., and I met Brett for the first time. I thought he was talking rubbish. His views about banking, what banking should be, was shocking. But guess what? That was a few years ago. Many years down the line, I had to correct myself that perhaps there's a lot of logic and sense in what he was talking about. Last year, or earlier this year, he was invited to Kenya by KCB, correct? And we had the good fortune of Paul, our CEO in Kenya, getting Brett to come to the office in Nairobi to talk to us a bit about innovation. Paul was so excited, he picked up the phone and called me and said, Mitchell, I think you guys need to listen to Brett. Brett is here today. There are a lot more experts in the room. Thank you. There are a lot of other experts in this room that understand the Nigerian context, the African context. And it is our hope that working with Brett today and with our collective contribution, we'll be able to come out of this event tomorrow having a better idea about how innovation can be used to improve our society. So from an Intersys point of view, it's simple. For us, it is this world we have been trying to create since 2002, when we started the company. It is how do we bring technology to be seamlessly integrated in our lives and in a way that we can facilitate transactions in clear, convenient, and intuitive manner. The idea is you shouldn't think about payment. Do your business and let payment just happen. It should not be seen. That is the kind of disruption we think we need. It is not about the payment, it's about the activity where payment is just an enabler. On that note, I'd like to welcome you all to this event and hope that by the end of tomorrow, you would have found that the 2 days you spent with us have been worthwhile. Thank you very much.